thankfully, even though my parents, made some decisions that I had to deal with, the fallout of, I think having a grandmother, having a great grandmother that, um, even though they didn't achieve a lot in terms of education, they valued it and they wanted more for me. They wanted more from my siblings. We had grandparents that were faith filled, and so my grandmother, even though, she came out in Queensbridge in 1951, she was not mentally about being in the neighborhood and being mentally um, impoverished, right? She didn't come from a deficit mindset. It was like, okay, like these are our set of circumstances. We're living below the poverty level,
Yes.
but I didn't even know that until I
Mm,
got to college.
same, same.
Because there was like, it was just we're doing what we need to do. You
Yeah.
handle your business. There are standards in this home. This is what we do. We don't do this,
Mm,
and so she was and still is like that rock for me.
mm,
Having someone that had standards for me and was just like, no, 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 you're not going to do this. And even though I was exposed to a lot growing up, also my parents, even though, like I said, they might not have made the best choices, but when they did get stable and, when we were with them and talking with them, we were able to talk to them.
mm,
So my parents kept it so 100,
mm,
they didn't
yeah.
try to, gloss over things or hide things or glorify things. They just spoke their experiences, let us know that we could come to them. So, when I had questions about drugs, when I had questions about, all sorts of things that
Mm-hmm.
you have questions about as a child, as a teenager, as a preteen, I could go to them and they were honest because they had a certain level of experience and wisdom. And I think that a lot of my friends, their parents didn't have that for whatever reason. It might have been, they were young and everybody is struggling, or they were working so hard that
Mm,
they were trying to put, food on the table and keeping a roof that they couldn't give those things. Um, and so, you know, when I went to Columbia, I realized that there were people that I gravitated to. And they were Black kids, Black and brown kids that came from similar backgrounds to
mm-hmm.
as I did, that came to that same school. And it's like one thing that I noticed about all of us was that we had one or two people in our lives that just held us to a standard
Mm-hmm.
and believed in us. And we were able to see that we didn't want this for our life. It wasn't something that we wanted to stay in.
Yes.
We saw the people dying.
Mm-hmm.
I remember walking outside of my father's building one day and there was blood, icy blood on the walkway. Those types of experiences can shape you
Yeah.
and harden you, or they can shape you and make you realize this is not what I want. This is not
Mm,
what I want to be about. And I need to move forward. How am I going to move forward? So my experiences were motivating forces for
yes.
me.
Yeah. I think that's so. One thing you said that I noticed is so common in a lot of people, especially Black and brown students, people growing up in the inner city, is like having that person. And a lot of times it's the grandparents or the great grandparents. I feel like they're like the real MVPs in the community, especially for um, our generation. I feel like they held it down because one thing is a lot of them saw the fight. They saw the fight for education and civil rights and equality. So they wasn't going. They may have the generation of that their children may have taken it for granted, but they wanted to make sure that their grandkids knew the value of what they fought for and what they didn't have and took advantage of those opportunities. So my grandmother was the same way. Like I lost my parents at a young age. And my grandmother probably didn't graduate from middle school, but she made sure me and my brother understood the importance of education. And for me, for me, another thing that I feel like helped me was I always played baseball growing up, right? So I had one thing I had was everyone in the community kind of looked at me like, all right, he has better opportunity. He has a chance to make it out. So we're not going to influence him as much. It was still pressure. There's still peer pressure and a lot of things to like not fall victim to, but they were like, you know, he has an opportunity to grow. So we're not going to try to get him to sell drugs or kind of get him to do this and that because, you know, he's going to be a baseball player. And I think just giving kids hope and opportunity, allowing them to see that they can be more than what they see around their 5-block radius gives them some motivation to strive and to push and to achieve more, you know, to see more than what they see in the neighborhood. And I think that's something that's important too. Whether it's sports, whatever it is, I think we have to identify the skill sets that our kids have at a young age and push them and motivate them, give opportunities for them to achieve it, right? And even if they don't achieve it, in the process, they'll end up a lot better off than they would if they didn't have hope, they didn't have something to believe in.